Hi, my name is David Herbert. I'm a sculptor. I work in the Mohawk Valley. I've been here for about 10 years, and this is my sculpture, Lord Humongous. So the name Lord Humongous comes from the movie Mad Max. A lot of the time I use subject matter taken from popular media and movies, album titles from music, and I'm sort of fascinated by the character of Lord Humongous, he's like the leader. He's like a big man who's the leader of this gang of like a roving gang of marauders in the movie. The main villains of that movie. And I find his character is very terrifying and fascinating and like, where does this person come from? So that's the title of the piece, that I'm just evoking that idea of him, though this is not like a representation of him in some way. I think a little bit, maybe he has this sort of like neck brace here. And so I sort of think about this as like a neck brace, and he wears like a mask obscuring his face. So that's like this steel part and the steel like face shield on the front. I think part of what makes him so scary is you can't see his face. But I didn't start with that. I started with I'd made a sculpture that was I'd welded steel, this like full body sculpture that the interior looks like the way the bars are here are very similar to the way I did that previous sculpture. But I got to some point where I was just like, this isn't working. I welded this whole like frame of a sculpture, and but I didn't have like a coating on it or like something I was going to put over it to fill in all these gaps that I made from this wire part. So I abandoned it. Like, I put some chicken wire on it as like an initial, like maybe I can do chicken wire and plaster bandages, but I abandoned that. It just wasn't working for me. So, cut to 5 years later, I still want to do like a figurative sculpture that's made of welded steel, and I think the part that was the real, I'm always kind of fighting a compromise with my work, like what sort of compromise have I made in my head without me even realizing it? Well, I made this steel sculpture. What I really wanted to do was also like cover it in steel, make it all steel. And so I came up with this idea of using the like sheet metal, this like grid, this mesh metal. So like content-wise, there's also the same thing with this idea of the compromising. So I made the helmet. For me, it's like I'm not creating an artwork at that point. When I made the helmet, I'm making like the block of marble that I'm going to carve from, and I'll like make this helmet, make, whatever artwork I make. I kind of make one part of it and then sit with it for a while. Very rarely does the whole thing come together in one like piece from where I'm like, oh, it's going to have this and that and this. Usually it's just like, I'm going to build a ship. I'm going to build the Empire State Building. I'm going to build like a massive scaffolding structure. So I sat with this idea, like, oh, it would be cool to, what if it was like kind of like a mannequin, like a thing you could move around. So I put it on this post with wheels in the bottom. The shape of this helmet I got from a knight's helmet at the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York City. I sort of was studying like that, like how do these helmets work? They didn't have like screws and all these things, at least that I know. So I wanted to like mimic that. So all these parts come apart, like all the pieces of this come apart in the same way that a medieval knight's helmet would come apart. Like, there's two posts here that this thing comes off of, and also you can also like kind of hinge it back. And these two parts come separately. So like encase the head here. Except I added screws because you can. But the initial, like these holes here, I guess you would like tie some fabric in maybe. But all of this shape is directly taken from this piece of the mat. And I like almost everything I make. There is a source. Like I'm not just, nothing's coming just out of my head. I really like to find a source and study also like other ways of making things. Every piece I do, I'm not making like a series. Like I'm not making, a million helmets, or that's not how I work. Each thing I'm like, maybe this is like pretentious to say, but I feel like I treat it as like research. I'm like a scientist, and like each piece I create has like its own. There's like its own sort of material combination, or the like object is its own thing, unique pretty much. And it's really important to me to keep it like a fresh for me, like as an investigation. And then I add my own content, like social political stuff on top of that, personal issues. And then I was like, well, okay, this is sort of about like a power, like someone that's in power who's like projecting this image of strength. So that gets into like the inside of the sculpture. After the helmet was complete, I started thinking about the interior of it. Like a lot of what when I make a sculpture, I want people to be able to enter it in some way to sort of, for me, art, I usually, it's something I kind of lose myself in. Like it could just be in thought. It could just be in playing with something, like playing with the picture or object or whatever it's not. But I'm more of like kind of a literal person, so I sort of try to add some entry points for people. And this one, it's super literal. Like I have like this like little bridge step viewing platform that you can go inside, and then another like compromise thing. I thought, well, it'd be nice to have a staircase that went down to the bottom here, some other element, but I think my first idea was not so complicated, and then I realized, well, really, it's the compromise. I really need to just make a spiral staircase on it to like totally like activate the whole like rod thing up the middle that goes to the top here. And then you walk inside here, and there's a viewing platform inside. Also, the similar thing with the projection of power. I was thinking about the Wizard of Oz, sort of, this face shield is sort of like a curtain, and then the wizard's inside. So also down below here, there's a chandelier. Initially, I'd taken some just kind of junk that I had from another sculpture that was all metal, kind of looked like a chandelier, just looked like this kind of bizarre hanging thing, but had no definition for me of what it was like. Maybe that's a chandelier, I don't know. And I hung it there. And then the more I was looking at that thing, I was just like, this is some random junk you found. Why not just make the thing that you're thinking instead of settling for this other thing that you found? So I made this chandelier with these little candles on it. Thank you so much for your time. If you want to learn more about my artwork, you can find me. I have an Instagram account. It's at David Herberts, which is DavidHerberts. And then I also have a website, which is my name, davidherbert.com, which is a little less up to date, but either place you can find me. Thank you so much.